Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, joined by attorney Cesar Gavidia, and we're going to talk about digestive disorders and how that relates to a long-term disability insurance claim, and provide you some tips about how to put yourself in the best position to get your long-term disability insurance claim approved. And Cesar, the conditions we're talking about here are basically irritable bowel syndrome, irritable bowel disorder, Crohn's disease, as well as digestive disorders actually falls into liver disease, hepatitis, those types of conditions. And one of the biggest challenges, as you know, is that in these types of cases, it's often not a question of the disability insurance company challenging the diagnosis. It's whether the symptoms are raising to the level of a functional disability that prevents you from being able to do the duties of your occupation. And more often than not, Cesar, these conditions are chronic and people have been dealing with them for many years. And then they're forced to prove to the disability company that, look, I know I've had it for a couple of years or a couple months and I've tried treatments, but I can't, and I continued to work through those treatments, but now I can't. And the disability company in the classic situation says, well, why now? So that's the situation we're always faced with. How do you go about handling that and putting the client in the best position to get their benefits approved?
Sure. Yeah, so with regards to many of these digestive gastrointestinal disorders, many of these conditions, again, there's many people that suffer from them, and there's a certain percentage of that population that the chronic nature of these conditions of IBS, of Crohn's disease, of liver disease, that it rises to such a level of frequency of chronicity that it becomes disabling. It becomes functionally impairing to where you're not able to function at work because you really become very unreliable. There's many of these conditions that require you to go to the bathroom multiple times a day. There's incontinence with them, and it not only it affects your function at your job, it affects basically your function in daily life. So even working from a place, an environment that may accommodate you with a bathroom nearby, if you have to go to the bathroom 7-8 times a day, even if you have a bathroom nearby, you're going to be incredibly inefficient at work. You're going to be extremely tired because these symptoms sometimes they're not just occurring during the day, they're occurring at night too. So you're not getting very restful sleep. All of this kind of like holistically, your entire life is affected. And of course, your career, your profession, your job is going to suffer greatly and immensely as well.
And it really varies based upon the occupation. We've had so many different people, especially with the IBS diagnosis and the Crohn's disease, where they've even already gone as far as accommodations, where they say, okay, we'll move you closer to the bathroom, or we'll allow you to work from home a certain period of time if that helps you. And then the accommodations reach the point where the person's like, it's not just about me being able to get to the bathroom when I need it. It's about the cognitive difficulties that I'm having because I'm uncomfortable, I'm in pain, I get fatigued very easily. And when I'm having all those symptoms, I can't focus on work, I can't meet my deadlines, I can't be reliable for phone calls, I can't make it to appointments, I can't get out of the office if I have to go meet with somebody. And because I can't commit to a schedule and I can't complete tasks by deadlines, I'm not able to do the job. So the accommodations only go so far. And unfortunately, the disability insurance company tends to minimize these types of gastrointestinal disorders as well. If you have a bathroom nearby, then you should be okay. And that's just simply not fair and not what the limitations are. It's far more than that, and there's cognitive difficulties as well. And speaking along the line of cognitive difficulties, Cesar, there's been suggestions where things like irritable bowel syndrome have been placed into the DSMV as a psychological disorder and not necessarily a physical disorder. And that argument has been made by disability insurance carriers. And how can that become a problem for some disability insurance claimants?
Yeah, so anytime that occurs, you stand the chance that the insurance company is gonna be very predatory about it. They're going to try to lump you in with basically these mental nervous disorders, and you say, well, a mental nervous disorder, let's say it is, there is anxiety here, there is depression here. Why is that a problem? Why would that be a problem? Well, many of these, particularly these group disability policies, have 24-month mental condition limitations. So if part of your disability is related to some sort of anxiety-related issue or depression-related issue or anything that they can associate to be psychological and even get as specific as being in the DSM or whatever the most updated version of the DSM is, then it's going to be a condition that the insurance company is going to try to limit payments on to 24 months and not pay you beyond that. They'll be happy doing that. They're potentially cutting off and limiting their liability by, it could be 20 years. So it's something insurance companies do quite often, and you have to be very aware of.
So, and because of the fact that they're trying to say IBS is a mental nervous condition and limiting you to 12 or 24 months, that is, even though a person doesn't treat for anxiety or depression, you have to be very careful, even though you may be feeling anxious or depressed, about even possibly seeking treatment for those types of things, because the disability carrier can try to pigeonhole you into that diagnosis so that they could limit their benefits to 12 or 24 months, like we said. But Cesar, what about, we see this all the time for the people diagnosed with the IBS or irritable bowel disorder, and the doctors will say, I want you to avoid stressful environments, stressful work environments especially, and a lot of work is stressful. That doesn't mean you have a mental nervous disorder. So how do you go about handling the situation where the claimant is basically says to the doctor, look, I feel okay when I'm not engaged in stressful activities, but if I have to go into stressful activity and my job requires me to be engaged in stressful activity, then I get symptoms. So is the idea that the work environment is generating the symptoms disabling?
Right, so what we're talking about here are the triggers, right? These triggers that might either bring on these symptoms, increase the frequency and intensity of these symptoms, and that's what your doctors are trying to avoid. It's not a matter or question of you having a psychiatric issue or psychiatric related issue. Disability insurance company and their physician consultants are going to try to go there with it, absolutely. But your doctors have to be very clear that it's about the work environment. It's about the type of work you're doing, the occupational duties that are involved with the type of work that you do. For instance, if it's an executive level job, it's going to be very demanding. It's going to be very stressful. There's going to be deadlines. There's going to be, there's going to be issues and things and tasks that you're going to be involved with that you're going to have huge effects on things. So it's very important that the doctors, your treating doctors are very, very clear about. It's about the work environment. It's about the stress and these triggers that you cannot be exposed to. Otherwise, there's going to be an onset of symptoms. There's going to be an increase in frequency and intensity of these symptoms, and that's what you're trying to avoid.
And Cesar, I wanted to touch on the importance of the strong medical documentation and getting every piece of objective evidence that you can as a claimant, whether it's getting all of your blood work, whether it's getting colonoscopies, whether it's getting endoscopies, whether it's trying multiple different medications, because we can tell you without doubt that if you have IBS or you have Crohn's, they're going to say, well, you only tried one medication. You haven't had a colonoscopy in 3 years. And what have you haven't exhausted all of your remedies in terms of trying to get yourself better. And if you do go through all of those steps and you continuously go back to the doctor and document your complaints, then you're going to put yourself in the best position to get approved. The problem is a lot of people get these diagnoses, they've had 2 or 3 colonoscopies, they've tried 5 medications, then they stop doing things for a year, and then they go back to the doctor one time, and then they want to file the claim, and the disability company's like, well, it looks like you had everything under control for a year, you went back, you got another medicine, you should be fine. We don't think your symptoms raised to the level where they're disabling. So it's this constant management and game of having the proper documentation, and not just going to the doctor, but the doctor really putting in everything into the records. And one of the things, Cesar, I know you always say and tell all your clients is keep a log. Talk about what this log is and why it's so important and how it can be related to the doctor.
So the reason that these logs are important is because there may be a gap in time. Your doctor may not want to see you for a month, two or 3 months. They're going to have you on a certain treatment schedule or at least visit schedule, and there are going to be symptoms that may be occurring on a daily basis, may be occurring weekly. They may with a certain frequency, and by the time you see that doctor again, you might not remember how you were feeling two months ago or even the beginning of the month. And when they're asking you about, well, tell me about the symptoms. Has the medication helped? Has the frequency reduced or increased? Are the symptoms more intense? Are you in pain? Are you having discomfort? What's going on? Talk to me about it. And with digestive disorders, even with your bowel movements and things like that. So it's important that you keep this log, that you record this, even hand it to your doctor when they see you at the next visit, so that they can incorporate that into your records. The disability insurer is going to look at these things. Your doctors, when so much relies upon what your doctor's recording and what's in your doctor's notes, and you're relying on them to accurately document your symptoms and document what you're reporting to them, there's a lot resting in that, and you're putting a lot of trust in how the doctor's recording what you're telling them. Now, if you're handing it over to them, you know what you're putting in that log. You know exactly what you're reporting, and now it's being incorporated and made part of your medical records, and that's absolutely critical.
Right. The one thing I always tell claimants is that the claim is only as good as bad as you look on paper, meaning that you have to look messed up, to keep it very simple, on paper. And if you don't, the disability company is just going to say, sorry, there's not enough evidence there and we're not going to pay you. So we work with our clients all the time through our knowledge in these types of conditions to get every single piece of medical evidence that could possibly be had out there. We share medical literature out there to show how these symptoms limit a person's ability to do their duties. We talk about stress in the workplace and how that needs to be avoided because that's going to exacerbate a person's condition. And this isn't about being bedridden. This is about, can you work as a reliable employee 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week? And if you can't do that and your doctor support you, then you should be getting paid your benefits. And so that's our job, to help you prove your claim. Whether you're applying or whether you've been denied, we're going to do whatever we can to get you paid. We encourage you to contact us for a free initial consultation, whether it's Cesar or myself or any of our lawyers. We're going to review your disability policy. If you've been denied, we're going to review your denial letter, and we're going to let you know immediately whether or not we can assist you. We also want you to take some time to go through our website, where you can search by your disability company or search by your medical condition. You're going to find a lot of cases that we've summarized, that we've handled, or lawsuits that we've summarized that have been handled throughout the country. We want you to be aware of what this disability process is going to be like, and also we want you to pick up further tips and information that can help put you in the best position to get your benefits approved. So no matter where you live in the country, we're available to assist you, and we look forward to the opportunity to speak with you in the future.